Deleted Session, February 18, 1981. Now, there are different kinds of value systems, each quite workable according to the types of individual who holds them. People are propelled to act in highly individual ways. What makes one man go forward can make another go backward. As a general rule, the production of any kind of art is a private one initially. That art may add to the richness of society, to culture. But art always possesses its own secretive inner nature, and with that nature, each artist of whatever kind must always relate. At its very basis, regardless of all tales to the contrary, art is indeed love's production. Rubber writes because he loves to write. The activity of itself is intriguing again. It is a matter of discovery and accomplishment, of celebration. It is natural for him to be inspired. There are manuals that are written primarily as textbooks or as guides to help others, in which there is no attempt made to create an art, but to state a case. In a way, these are the result of two different kinds of value systems: art for its own sake, produced out of love, or text produced primarily for the benefit and the instruction of others. In the second case, the value is first of all to help others by stating as clearly as possible known facts about particular subject matters such as health or what have you. Rubber is involved with the production of art. It subverts art's nature to some extent when it is asked to serve another master. However beneficial that master may seem to be, for art by its nature will always come up with surprises, and deals not so much with specifics or with directions as with overall patterns that must always be free to fall in fresh and unexplored directions. Ralph noted an excellent definition. They said, if you are over-concerned with helping others, then you must first of all begin to question whether or not your creative material, still forming, will serve that purpose. And if not, or if there is a question, you give birth to hesitations and doubt that, again, subvert art's free flow. An overhanded sense of responsibility leads in the same direction. So true art must, in a vital fashion, be devoid from utility, or from its function outside of itself, or you will end up with something else entirely. Left alone, Rubber's creative life falls into inspirational patterns that spring from their own secretive sources. If the products help people, that help is an additional feature flowing naturally from the art itself, and not applied to it with a heavy hand. Rubber has felt too responsible to develop his psychic abilities, to produce another psychically inspired work of his own. The sense of responsibility of that kind stifles love, which must be free to form its own creative in its own fashion. Therefore, left alone, Rubber writes freely and in an inspired nature, because that is his nature. It is what he loves to do. When he becomes overly concerned with ideas of responsibility to use his talent, then the love beneath them is smothered to some extent and denied its flow. When that flow is relatively unimpeded, then he is naturally attracted to subjective activity, and to performance in the natural world as well. He enjoys seeing people live. To enjoy seeing people is a different thing than expecting yourself to be a public personality. However, Ruber has been trying out a system of values that is not naturally his own. He has told himself that his art must be used to help people primarily, as if that had been his main goal all along. Art then becomes a matter of doing something else, and that idea runs directly contrary to the basic integrity of art, and to art as he truly understands it to be. He therefore often felt forced to do what before he had done because he wanted to. This led certainly to conflict, the idea of the public image coming through the correspondence, and as it was interpreted by Ruber, further deepened the feeling of responsibility. Certainly a great psychic teacher had a responsibility of some weight, and therefore it seemed imperative to Ruber that he not make errors, that he live up to the characteristics generally ascribed to such an image. Thus, some experimentation was cut out. He began to think that anything less than this public personality was cowardly. He felt that your visitors came to see the public image, and felt inferior by contrast. To some extent, he became divorced from some of his own feelings, for they seemed now beneath him. He had always enjoyed being somewhat disreputable, had seen himself and you prowling around the edges of society, not simply observers of it, but to a large extent apart from its foibles, and certainly not mired in all of its conventional misunderstandings. He enjoyed dealing with it by sending the written word out into the public arena. He insisted upon that the publication of his work. The books were to be his public platform. He is proud of that translation of private creative experience into the artistic public act of publication. He is not a performer, however, in the same way that an actor is, whose art requires for its best execution the lively, responsive, immediately present audience. He did not want to be a public personality of that kind. It seemed that this would be thrust upon him, however, that it was expected, and that indeed, furthermore, he should expect such performance from himself. His own earlier attitudes about such matters began to seem cowardly, so he tried to divorce himself from them. That idea, however, together with the idea of responsibility, you see, was always in the background. In a fashion, the fears became substitutes for the earlier natural feelings that he had been in contact with before. There were reasons then not to go out into the world. It was dangerous, and so forth. Those feelings of fear were reactivated to provide a seemingly reasonable explanation for the earlier natural feelings he was no longer in touch with. The earlier ones saw the two of you as apart from society's inner workings, not divorced now from society, but you had both pursued policies of not following society's mores. You prided yourselves on not having regular jobs and being apart from certain portions of the culture. You recognized the importance of community without joining any of its organizations. Ruber made gestures of unconventionality to go on public television, join the workshops, and so forth, would not be Ruber's way, even while he felt that such a course was expected of him. He thinks in terms of individuals. He distrusts crowds. he has no use for congregations. But all of those feelings remained largely unexpressed in later years. Besides this, he felt that such a performance would alter the direction his work would take in ways that would be detrimental overall, for the broadening quality of that kind of discourse could only be as extensive in scope as the quality of his audience understanding, so that the material might become too tailored to public need or consumption, tied up in answering conventional questions. An excellent point, by the way. Rob noted, yes, and one that Jane and I soon became aware of even on that first very limited tour we took to help publicize the set material. She said, it would do you both good if you took some time to become better acquainted with your own feelings about who you are or what you are, as opposed to who or what you think you should be and why you think you should be different. Robert naturally leads to periods of painting and poetry and the subjective explosion of conventional thought. He felt that he should be doing other things, however. He should be using his time better. His body is relaxing because it needs to, and he is finally allowing it. He was able to see the quality of his poetry today for his book. The poetry adds to the world simply by its being. Art is not meant to be a prescription. It is a celebration. People who celebrate do not need prescriptions. This will be a brief session. I want you to read over the last sessions, however, for your own edification. If you want to, note down any particular questions you want to ask, knowing, of course, that I will answer them in my own fashion. Robert's material last night in the dream state was excellent, bringing feelings to the surface, and rearousing some attitudes he had forgotten. This was a session Robert enjoyed, also one he had out of a sense of responsibility, but at least with some understanding of the issues involved. I bid you then a fond good evening. Rose said, thank you, Seth. It's very good.